Every case in this file is real. Every name, every date, every detail, real. The After Dark file opens every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Subscribe so you're there when we open the next one. I'm your host, Kenji Yams. You're watching the After Dark file. Late August 1990. The village of Calvine sits in the Central Highlands of Scotland. Two hikers, a camera, a clear summer afternoon in the Scottish Highlands. That's all it was supposed to be. What they photographed on that day in August 1990 didn't just confuse them. It confused the Royal Air Force. It confused the Ministry of Defense. And it stayed locked inside a government archive for 34 years, while the two men who took the picture couldn't even tell anyone their names. Tonight, we're going to find out why. Late August 1990, the village of Calvine sits in the Central Highlands of Scotland. Roughly halfway between Pitlochry and Blair Atoll on the A9, one of the loneliest stretches of road in the British Isles. The kind of place where the wind comes off the mountains and the air smells like it hasn't been breathed by anyone else for a week. Two young men. Their names have never been officially released. Researchers know them only as the hikers. These hikers were walking through the landscape on what by all accounts was a good normal day. Clear skies, visibility was excellent. The kind of afternoon that makes you feel like Scotland is actually apologizing for all the rain. They were not UFO enthusiasts. They were not conspiracy theorists. They were just two guys out walking. And then something appeared above them. They had a camera. Whatever instincts kicks in when your brain cannot explain what it's looking at. That instinct fired. They took 6 photographs. 6. The object that they captured was described as diamond-shaped. Massive. Estimates from analysts who later examined the photo put its size at somewhere between 25 and 100 feet across. It was hovering. Not passing through, just hovering. Completely stationary, above the tree line. One of the photos shows a military aircraft, a Harrier jump jet, visible in the background, which places this event in the vicinity of an active RAF flight corridor. Here's where it gets interesting. The hikers didn't just see the object. They watched it for several minutes. Then it accelerated away. Straight up, gone. They went home and they called the police. Then they called the Scottish newspaper. The Scottish Daily Record received the photographs and contact from the two hikers in late 1990, and here's what's strange. The paper apparently reached out to the Ministry of Defense for comment before running anything. The MOD's response, the Ministry of Defense, was swift. The photographs were handed over to the government, but the story was not published. Nick Pope, who ran the MOD's UFO desk from 1991 to 1994, later confirmed this. The photos passed through his office. He described the object in them as, and I'm quoting directly here, quote, the most convincing UFO photograph I've ever seen, quote. He said it was unlike anything in any known aircraft inventory. He said analysts could not identify it. And then those photographs disappeared into classified storage for 34 years. Let's pause here, because Nick Pope is not a fringe figure. He's a career civil servant. He spent 21 years at the MOD. His specific job officially was to investigate UFO sightings and assess whether they posed a defense threat. He was, in every practical sense, the British government's UFO investigator. Not a believer by default. A bureaucrat doing a job. When Nick Pope says the Calvine photographs were the most compelling evidence that ever crossed his desk, that's not enthusiasm. That's a man who spent years developing a baseline for probably explainable. He couldn't explain Calvine. Under Freedom of Information requests and standard declassification schedules, MOD UFO files began to release to the National Archive starting around 2008. The Calvine file was initially scheduled for release in 2072. Let me say that again, 2072. That's not a standard classification window. That's someone deciding that whatever isn't in the file should not be read by anyone currently alive. You can kind of laugh about it, but not because it's funny, but because the absurdity of it lands differently when you sit with it. They eventually revised that date. The file was partially released in 2022. Then more substantially in 2023. But the original 6 photographs, still not officially in public hands. What we have is a single photographic print that Nick Pope personally kept. A copy, not the original, which he released to researchers in 2022. That image is the closest to the public has ever gotten. Now, here's where we put the competing explanations on the table and let them fight it out. Theory 1. Experimental military aircraft. The Highlands of Scotland were and are used for low-level flight testing. The presence of the Harrier in the background photo suggests the area was active. Some research believe that the object was an early prototype of a classified craft, possibly American, possibly British, and that the classification timeline exists to protect the technology, not to hide something extraordinary. That's plausible, except a classified aircraft doesn't hover silently for several minutes over a public hiking trail, and it doesn't disappear vertically at speed in front of witnesses. Here's theory 2. Misidentification. Weather balloon, drone, atmospheric phenomenon. Every UFO investigator's first stop. Discarded early, the photographs are too clear. The object is too defined. The Harrier in the background gives analysts a size reference. And whatever that thing is, it is not a weather balloon. Theory 3, and this is the one that doesn't go away, is that what those 2 men photographed was generally unidentified, not necessarily extraterrestrial, but something that the British government, when shown the evidence, decided it was better to bury than to explain. The 2 men were reportedly so shaken by the experience, as they should be, and possibly by the pressure surrounding it, that they refused to take it public. If I was in their shoes, I would be terrified if I was to release this and the government was trying to hide it. I'd be terrified for my own life. They refused to go public. No names, no interviews. They handed over the photographs and essentially receded from the record. One researcher who spent years trying to locate them believes at least one of the two men was asked directly not to discuss what he saw. Not threatened, asked politely. The kind of ask that comes with an implied understanding of what happens to the conversation if the answer is no. We don't know where they are now. We don't know what they were told. We don't even know their names. Here's the thing that I keep coming back to. The thing that, when I found it, made me go back to the beginning of this story and read it again with different eyes. Nick Pope has said publicly that when the Calvine photographs were analyzed by MOD specialists, one conclusion returned consistently. The object in the image did not match any known aircraft, British, American, or otherwise, in the defense community's database. But here is the detail. The Harrier jet in the background of one photograph, it is not flying past the object. It appears to be circling it. Which means the RAF knew it was there. Two hikers, a camera, a clear afternoon in the Scottish Highlands. Whatever they saw that day was real enough for a government to spend 34 years making sure you don't see it. We still don't have the original photographs. We still don't have the names. And somewhere out there, at least one man is still alive who looked up at something above Calvine and has spent 3 decades telling no one. If you want to go deeper on this one, the files, the Pope interview, the photograph analysis, let me know in the comments. And if you're watching this and you know something about Calvine that isn't public yet, you know where to find us. Like, subscribe for the love of everything that's decent. And keep looking up. This is the After Dark File.